So I'm Peter Whitehouse. I'm a geriatric neurologist and the founder of 3 public intergenerational schools. I am here to learn more about the Artist and Scientist as Partners program and to participate and support it in its endeavor to be a force for change in the world and to keep people healthy of all ages.
And what do you think the role of the arts is in healing?
Healing is much more than medicine, it's much more than nursing, and particularly when you put it into a community health. I think that we cannot divorce the health of our communities from the health of ourselves. So I think arts create healthy community. It creates a community that has rich conversations about their humanity, their purpose, and for me, their relationship to nature. And so art creates a space where people can have the kinds of experiences that connect themselves internally to themselves and to the rest of the people in their community. That's health.
Tell us a little bit about intergenerativity and why it's important.
So intergenerativity is a word that if you Google it or look it for in the dictionary, you won't find it. I love the fact that language is promiscuous. We invent all the words all the time. Intergenerativity started from 2 sources. Intergenerational, because I believe that people at different ages learning together can create that healthy community that we were talking about. And the notion that the generativity is a particularly important word, for example, to Erik Erikson as people got older. You either continue to be generative or you stagnate. That was his language. That the idea then that we are more generative together, that intergenerativity creates innovation and ideas that we can't do alone. So it's almost more important to focus on the word inter. It's intergenerational, it's interdisciplinary, it's intergenerative.
Okay, tell me why you think this Brown is particularly right for this kind of study and the ASaP initiative.
So I'm an alum, as a number of people that I'll be working with tomorrow as ASaP are, and I just had a delightful time here. The notion that there's a focus on undergraduate education, which means young learners who have not yet learned the dangers of thinking in disciplinary categories and who are open to learning experiences that are a bit different. And I think art and science get divorced too frequently, and that Brown is a place where one could bring those together, as ASaP has, in even grander ways, if we somehow created a conversation in an intensely interdisciplinary place about intergenerative communications, and I'm actually going to use a word that puzzles some people, transdisciplinary. What does it mean to take that disciplinary conversation into boundaries, in between boundaries that really can make a difference, and how can art help in that process? I'm confident in the fact that I am a scientist. The notion that I think science has lost its way a little bit, that we've become so focused on pharmacological solutions, that we on molecular genetics and not on ecology. So even before you leave the science domain, there's a distorted space about how science can bring answers to community. And so art has an aesthetic that I think overlaps with science, about searching for patterns, searching for holistic connections between each other. So I actually think that over history, art has promoted cultural change more than science. That's because science is a relatively modern intervention, but science needs to get a little more humble and embrace its important role in culture, but tempered by a sense that we can't do everything using biomedical scientific approaches. So I'm trained as a geriatric neurologist with some experiences in psychiatry as well. That's a traditional kind of medical model. I became interdisciplinary and started working in an interprofessional space with nurses and social workers and many others because I think they're so important to healthcare. But my radical transformation as a healer came when I began to develop public schools and school-based healthcare programs, because it then got me into the public health space. So that's transition 1, from basic medicine into public health. Actually, the most radical was when I became a tree doctor. That's a metaphorical creature. It's actually somewhat shamanistic. That is to say, trees and shaman believe, as we were talking earlier, that the health of an individual is part of, it can't be dissociated from the health of community. So it actually bridges my first two roles, an individual healer, physician, to public health, and now to an artist, if I can call myself that, that says to folks, okay, look, you're interacting with somebody who professes to be representing the tree, metaphorically. I haven't grown bark and leaves yet, although I have costumes. But the idea that, but by learning about the importance of by roots, of the notion that you have a trunk through which things flow and communicate, and eventually that you end up, with this bushy canopy that relates to aspirational things like the sun, but you're doing that in a community. So my favorite metaphor with regards to trees is human beings have really got to learn to see or avoid, let me start that again. The metaphor can go either way, which is why I get confused. Human beings have to learn that they sometimes don't see the forest because of the trees. Sometimes we don't see the trees because of the forest. So this notion that we have to metaphorically go between the small components of systems and the system as a whole, and is the most fundamental lesson from trees. They are transgenerational connections between the earth and the sky, and that's an important connector we need to maintain metaphorically as well as practically.